Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Fireside Chat with the title How Technologies Pave Paths for Realizing an Innovative and Robust Higher Education Learning Context. My name is Cecilia, Country Manager of Malaysia Market at Classing. Classing is an edtech SaaS company that provides professionally designed solutions for virtual and hybrid classroom. And today at our Fireside Chat, we are so honored to be joined by our Professor Elizabeth Lee, the Chief Executive Officer of Sunway Education Group, for an in-depth discussion on hybrid learning in higher education. And Professor Elizabeth is the driving force behind the Sunway Education Group's mission to provide a holistic and inclusive environment for all. And under her leadership since 1992, Sunway Education Group has developed from just one institution to now a dynamic group of 70 institutions, which encompass early childhood education, schools, health education, as well as research and leadership development. Professor's work is widely recognized in Malaysia, in Singapore, and also in Southeast Asia. And really thank you, Professor Elizabeth, for joining us today. And Professor, would you like to say hi to our audience out there and share a little bit about yourself with us? Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much, Cecilia. It is my pleasure to be with everyone who's listening in today, together with Cecilia and me. It truly has been a wonderful journey with the Sunway Education Group, where I've been with them for almost 30 years now, since 1992. So next year will be my 30th year. As such, I have had the pleasure of seeing the group develop and grow. In fact, that's supposed to be what I do, to see how to grow the education arm of the Sunway Group under my chairman, Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia, who has actually put the whole education group now into a foundation. So we're owned and governed by the Jeffrey Chia Foundation. So that's just a very quick overview on top of what Cecilia has mentioned as to how widely spanned we are, all the way from preschool or early years all the way up to PhD.
Yeah, thank you for your brief overview, and let's just get into our topic. So we all know technology has been long incorporated into the classroom and has inspired different learning modes such as flipped learning and hybrid learning and blended learning, right? And I know Sunway Education Group has always been at the forefront of the education innovation, right? And has created a lot of projects of like innovation lab and incubator, and also has founded a lot of entrepreneurial projects for college students. So at Sunway University, how do you make use of technologies in your university?
We totally believe that technology is the way to go, especially in the industrial age with IR 4.0 upon us. There is no way you can progress and there's no way you can move on, especially when you're in education and you're preparing the next generation of movers and shakers of the corporate world and of the future, basically. So the students need to be brought up in a technologically savvy environment, basically, so that they are able to eventually, when they venture out, be able to move on from there to higher things. We also realize that we are at the cusp of technological changes, and they're changing so quickly, and sometimes we find that we're playing catch up. And I must admit that there are other times when I don't know what is reality and what is available now. But it's good to dream, because then we are also pushing the envelope a lot more, as they say. I will say to my IT chief and to my professors at at the university and say, look, we should do more AR and not AR now, actually VR. And can we imagine a situation, as my registrar was saying earlier on, where instead of talking about hybrid and talking about online, we are actually going to transport the student who is not here directly into the classroom virtually. So, and so that day when we were talking about it, we got so excited and said that this is definitely the next thing we want to do, whether it's possible and what does it take to make it possible. So technology, therefore, is extremely important if it is going, we see it as a way of bringing the institution and the people forward.
Sure.
In fact, I would like to for example, a lot more robots actually moving around on campus, not just because they are cute and they are adorable and they are different, but actually I think it's extremely inspiring, because I believe that it will actually set the tone of the university, and for people to know, look, we are a university for the future, and that our students are being prepared for the future. So I've been asking for that to come on board. So it's so much more exciting to have all these things happening on campus, and to actually not see them in a lab, but actually see them interacting around on campus with people. It would be really fun.
Yes, totally agree. Of course, now many people they are looking for the AI solutions, right? So for Sunway University, what kind of platforms or the solutions you are equipping or applying for your physical university?
The one that I constantly hear my academics refer to is actually Blackboard, which is a platform that we have used for, oh my goodness, more than a decade now. And what I like about Blackboard is that it keeps upgrading itself, and so therefore it's been very useful. But of course, with pandemic having happened so fast, and with Malaysia being locked down almost quite suddenly, we have been forced to scramble for whatever platforms we can get ourselves onto. And so most of our academics and our teachers have been exploring different platforms and bringing it to the classroom, etc. And today I'm delighted that we are testing yet again a new platform for our fireside chat, the class in, which is something very new to me, and I quite like it. I mean, the fact that I can see, the two of us, we're sitting side by side, and it seems to be working quite well. So I can also imagine that this is something that we would really want to explore more and use more.
Yeah, really, thank you, Professor. Actually, as you mentioned before, of course, of the pandemic, we have quite a lot of solutions, softwares, and platforms in front of us for us to choose. And at Sunway, you have deployed quite a lot of different platforms like Blackboard and Microsoft Teams and Zoom. So, while you provide additional training for your teachers, from my perspective, during this era, it might be difficult for teachers to get used to online teaching because it requires a different teaching method, right, and a different teaching skills. So I want to ask about this part. And also for students, what do you consider to be the greatest shift in the learning experiments among students today?
Like I said, earlier, one of the things that have happened because of the pandemic and the way we were so rapidly locked down and everyone having to study from home, overnight teachers and students have had to adapt because they have taken the classroom for granted. Just bring yourself to class, and then the teacher will teach, and they were not really exploiting technology in this respect. Maybe the only technology that they would require would be at that point in the classroom sometimes would be a microphone or something like that, but then all of a sudden now they have to really look at the devices before themselves, whether it is their laptop or their PC or even their mobile phone and trying to use these devices and turn them into learning devices, learning directly from their teacher. Teachers are learning how to record themselves on devices. Truly, we have had courses whereby, for example, for a couple of years now, human resources have put on a host of learning courses or learning seminars via LinkedIn, for example, which is all online. But not many people have been accessing that. But then all of a sudden, because of the lockdown and then the need to learn overnight, then, you see a lot more people signed on immediately to learn on the spot so that they can be better teachers when it comes to online teaching. So it's quite interesting to have seen that change. And for our students, of course, I think for our students, the thing that they love best is the fact that now their teachers have recorded themselves, and it has become movie on demand, so that some of them may have overslept in a class or they couldn't really understand, so that they could go back and replay the recording and be able to listen to the teacher over and over again if it is a point that they couldn't quite understand, or the accent or the teacher spoke too fast. So this has been a very useful exercise for the students to do that. And for me personally, I have actually in the past asked teachers to actually record themselves, because we think that, when you have a great class, you should record yourself, and to put it, if not online, but at least make it available to your students. But teachers have always been very shy about it, because they don't know how to look like, and so nobody ever does that. But now suddenly, because of this camera in front of us on our laptops or on our PCs, we find that actually it's very easy to record ourselves. And since we're going to do online, I'm going to talk to you, I might as well, or I'm going to teach you, then I might as well just turn the recording on. And then after that, well, rather than repeat myself, my students can go there and turn on the recording and listen again. So that has encouraged our teachers to end up recording themselves. And then they found that actually recording themselves are not, it's not so difficult, both in it being a task at hand and both in it being acceptable in the mind, to have a recording of yourself and then putting it online. I think it has become acceptable. They also find it so useful because their students can actually go back and refer to anything they don't understand.
Yes, totally agree with what Professor said. I don't think hybrid learning is to replace the traditional face-to-face communication or teaching and learning scenario, but hybrid learning can provide the flexibility and also possibility for the teachers and students. As you mentioned, the teachers can record themselves and upload their recorded videos for students to check over and over. And also, this new learning method can tackle and also address a lot of challenges that we may encounter in the physical learning scenario. And for the classrooms, Professor, can you share a little bit more with us about how can hybrid learning add value to the college classrooms?
I think it can add tremendous value to the classroom environment, aside from, especially during COVID times where you have a huge safety concern on your hands with people who are not comfortable about coming to the classroom, and anyway, you want to socially distance the students. So hybrid learning has allowed for those students, some of the students, to actually access the classes online. So that has been very useful in putting a lot of people's minds at rest. And we all know that we have to have our minds at rest before we can learn properly, right?
Yes.
So there is that one. And the other thing is what I mentioned earlier on, this idea of being able to go back and access the recording if we are not sure about what the teacher has said. So even though we were in the class and we don't really want to ask a question because we're not sure what the other classmates are thinking, and we don't want to slow everyone else down. And so therefore I can go back and I can play the recording again and listen to it again. Another thing about hybrid that I really like is that now you don't really need to have huge lectures where, honestly speaking, for a teacher to have to address more than 100 students, for example, or close to 100 students, it's very difficult to reach out to each and every single one of the students, unlike a one-to-one or a 1-to-20 class, you know what I mean? And so engagement is not easy unless you pick out certain students. For example, in a lot of MBA classes, you know, they make the students write their name tag very large and visible so that the teacher can actually call upon certain students and ask them questions in order to interact that way. But it is difficult when you have a huge lecture in place and you don't really know whether the students are really connecting with you mentally. So I think hybrid learning, especially if you're able to put some of these lectures online and the teacher can pre-record himself so that he can also play it and make sure that he's absolutely clear. I think he would probably have done a much better job having pre-recorded himself and then putting it online. And students can then go and listen to these lectures so that it seems very much between him and the lecturer, and in a huge lecture it's hard to interact anyway. So these can be put in a recording and be pre-recorded as opposed to live sessions where it is more classroom style, but lectures, big lectures can be done this way. And it would be at the comfort of the student, which is quite good because when the students are mentally alert and mentally ready, to learn and come on board, and then they can listen to the lecture. So it's very useful in this respect. I mean, those are just three broad examples that immediately come to mind.
Yes, yes, sure. Thank you for your sharing. You mentioned about the MBA courses, right? And you think for MBA courses, maybe they can make good use of hybrid learning. So going into specifics, can you give some examples of subjects or pedagogies or like some learning scenarios that can benefit the most from a transition from traditional learning to hybrid learning?
Well, the hybrid learning has many kinds as well. I mean, for example, sometimes people think it's either online or face-to-face, but actually it's more than that, as you've rightly pointed out. Hybrid could be, you know, whoever is accessing online, whether this is synchronous or asynchronous, as in whether it is a live class or whether it is a pre-recorded class. So whatever you say, to me, I also agree with you that the physical face-to-face is important. I think it's important because of the interaction, like you and I are interacting right now. You ask me a question, I'm answering. So I think that one is still very important. And so in some of the classes, and even though it's hybrid and the student is accessing online, there must be a way for the student to still interact with the lecturer. And in fact, it's better to be able to do so in a classroom. And right now, that is difficult because if you're conducting a live class and if you have half your students face-to-face and another half who is online, the teacher has to be very adept, and that's not easy.
Yes.
Trying to speak to the students in front of them who could be asking them questions, but at the same time, keeping an eye on the ones who are online, who may have questions they want to ask, and not losing their attention. A lot more is expected of the teacher in this way. So that I have found rather challenging for the teachers. But having said that, I suppose with the onset of more tools that can help enable this, it would be better. I dream of a day when, like I said, where I can have a virtual image of that student actually in the classroom in front of me, put everyone in a chair, all of us are coming online, but then somehow
Yes.
it looks as if they're all the participants
Yes.
look as if they are sitting on a chair in a lecture room, so maybe there could be a situation where in the future I'm conducting a face-to-face class, but I have some students who are, are beamed in, so that it could be just an image of them, but rather than me looking at a computer, I'm looking at them as part of the class, and they can interact with me as the other students can. So I can imagine that in time to come it will progress to that stage, and then that will really make hybrid learning a lot more pleasurable and not so difficult as it is now.
Yes, I always think engagement and management are the two important components to conduct online and offline teaching and learning. So yeah, you just talk about the like the virtual background and keep every student seated in their chair. And yeah, apart from this,
Yeah.
what kind of tour you are looking for, or the specific features you are looking for? Mm,
It would be very useful, I suppose, for a teacher. I mean, I'm just
mm,
imagining the whole thing would be, for us, if there are tools within, the software and even the hardware, which can
mm,
track the students and the actual students' attention span, for example. And another thing is, because as we are switching online or going hybrid, and I
mm.
have always said, do we really need to have students all gathered in a huge exam hall? Is there some way we can do this assessment online? And
Mm,
so that is another huge area that people are going into, looking for the best way to
totally agree.
organize online examinations. I dare say that all over the world, we're still grappling with that one because it's not easy, but maybe it needs a whole mindset change to the way exams should be conducted, rather
Mm,
than right now, trying to look for movements within the room to see if people are moving around and there's no cheating. Maybe we have to move away from that
mm,
and find another way. Then the other thing is, I think another very simple one that is already in use is a camera that tracks the teacher when the teacher is moving around. Some
ah,
teachers
yes.
love to move
Mm,
around, I
yes,
don't like to
yes.
sit still. And so in a classroom, it's a little bit difficult for those who are online. And so if
Mm,
this camera can track them, it might be quite easy. And also for the camera to be able to track the students when they ask us a question. I mean, all these tracking, or not just of the students in the class, but also of the students who are online who wants to ask a question.
mm.
That there could be alerts coming in. So all these will be very useful.
We also took this into consideration when we designed our hardware as well. So classing actually we will also produce hardware. And yeah, tracking is one of the most important elements we are thinking. And also for the online assignments, actually teachers they are able to conduct online courses during the pandemic, but the online test will be the issue because of the cheating problem, right? So teachers and
Correct.
also
Yes.
the school principals, administrators, they need more tools or the platforms to help them monitor the whole performance of the students to prevent them from cheating. For our assessment, we have developed the dual camera for students to like have one camera look at their face and another camera look at their hand and their screen, to prevent them from
Mm.
cheating. Yeah, but I think we can do better. For example, yeah, we can integrate or we can collaborate with some AI testing company, something like that. Yeah, I think it will be the future of education as well. Talking about hardware, so I know that in many schools in Malaysia, they have already equipped with projectors in the classroom. And I want to know at Sunway what kind of the basic setting in the classroom apart from the projector. Do you think of having more smartboard or the digital collector, something like that, to be imported to your classroom?
Yeah, you're quite right that in the past we may have a projector up
Yeah,
there, and that has become a standard of classrooms, and when PowerPoints are shared, etc., right?
yeah.
But of course nowadays it would be having a camera up there rather than just a projector, because
Uh,
it should also be filming what's happening in class. Smart boards is something that we invested in, well, gosh, for a long time already. uh, and I must say that it's not necessarily something that all teachers have embraced easily. As smart boards become smarter and smarter, so it's not just about showing content that we can access,
yes.
as in previously when smart boards first came out.
Mm,
A lot of times you have to also go and look for the content in order to play it on the smart board.
mm, mm.
So as it becomes more and more advanced, yeah, I would see that it would be the way to go, because it's just like a huge computer that you will have. As Blackboard or whiteboard. It definitely will help to enhance learning a lot more, because you can literally just go online, and you can use that rather than to have to go into your PC and then beam it up from the projector, and then send it back to your screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
all this would be seamless and so much faster.
Okay, so Professor, looking into the future, do you think will hybrid learning be a promising or become a popular and widely used teaching and learning method in higher education?
Oh, I
Mm,
definitely believe so, because I think both teachers and students have learned about the attraction of online teaching and learning. And it's just like with meetings. While we like meeting face to face, we also now, even though we can meet face to face, we will sometimes say, let's meet on Teams or let's meet on Zoom.
mm,
So I would definitely see it as a way of the future. There's
mm,
another thing I wanted to add. You know how it's like, how different people learn differently. You have
mm,
introverts and you have extroverts. And very often in a classroom, you may have those who are not so shy and they would like to ask a
mm,
lot of questions. And then the quiet ones will hopefully hear the questions they want asked by the braver
yeah,
colleagues who did ask the questions so that they can benefit from the answers. But then there are some who are so quiet they dare not ask their questions. But I've noticed that with going online, sometimes you have students who will ask the questions as we're talking now. But you will notice that even in meetings, right, you always have someone else. You always have a group of people who like to type whatever they want to
yes,
say. I think online has allowed for that, a lot more of that, because students may be quiet when it comes to face, but usually when it comes to texting, they don't really have a problem interacting.
yeah.
So I do think that this is also another one of the advantages and benefits that going online has brought to the forefront, to have a voice online.
Yes, yes. And also students, they can learn at their own pace. For example, some students learn faster,
Absolutely.
right? But some students are too shy to ask questions, so they need their own space to learn. I think hybrid learning
Mm.
can guarantee this point as well.
But they must always have that opportunity
Mm,
to interact with their teachers. There
yeah.
must be that, because otherwise it will become 100% online. And
Mm,
it's not the same, because you cannot really clarify your doubts and your queries.
mm, mm.
So that face-to-face is still important, whether that face-to-face is online, like what we're doing now, or whether, that's actually in a classroom environment.
Yeah, sure. Okay, actually, that concludes my interview today. And Professor, do you have any other remarks you want to add on?
No, I thank you very much for having this opportunity to chat with you. It was very enjoyable. And thank you for introducing us to Class In.
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, actually, I have been connecting with Sunway for quite a long time, and I think we can explore the best approaches and also the methods for the teachers and also the students to better engage themselves in the hybrid learning and also to be better prepared for the scenario post-pandemic. And really, thank you for your time, Professor, for today's session and sharing with us your experience and your amazing insights. And for our audience today, hope our session will be useful and hopefully we can provide some new ideas to you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cecilia. And bye to everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And hopefully we get to meet one of these days face to face. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.